Welcome to Epic Begins with One Step Forward, the podcast that reveals how to plan, achieve, and enjoy the journey of creating epic results in your life, business, health, and relationships. Here's your host, best-selling author and motivational speaker, Zander Sprague.
Hello, Epic people, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Epic Begins with One Step Forward. I'm your host, Zander Sprague, and today I am so honored to be joined by Katharine Giovanni. Katharine, tell us who you are and what you do.
First, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I have written a bunch of books, 12, won a few
Wow.
awards for them. Yeah. I'm one of the original founders of the independent concierge industry. There's a story for you.
Yeah.
And I retired from that industry in 2020, and now I'm focused on a brand new way of forgiveness. I'm teaching people how to forgive. That's another interesting story.
That is an interesting story, and that is one that I would love for us to explore just a little bit today. So, briefly, can you just have, because you piqued my curiosity. Concierge, tell me just ever so briefly what that was all about.
Well, in 1990, everybody is used to the hotel concierge. It's been around for decades and decades.
Yeah.
Well, about 25 years ago, this is how old I am. But 25 years ago, a group of hotel concierge thought, if I can do this in a hotel world, I'll bet I can bring it to mainstream America. So
Sure.
they did. And back in 1998, there might have been 20 of them around the world, and all of them were in the United States. My husband and I had a meeting in an event planning firm at the time, and we read an article in Entrepreneur magazine because we were in floppy disks and dial-up modem, and
I'm
Google
right
wasn't
there
a
with you.
thing.
Trust me.
So we read an article about the independent concierge industry, this brand new industry, and we thought, "Yeah, we're doing more of that than anything else." So we gave it a go, and within 6 months, we got a website up and running, which I did myself by reading the Microsoft Word help file. Don't ask me to repeat that. I probably never could do it again. Won a Webby Award. Please don't be impressed because it was the first year they were giving them out and they were giving them away at that point. But
Exactly.
the phone started to ring from people just saying, what do I charge? Could you just help me out? And
Mhm.
and my husband came into my office and said, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm just helping him out. He said, the $1 million question, why are you doing it for free?
Yeah.
Really good question. So that was the start. I wrote the concierge manual. We're now in the sixth and final edition because I retired from the industry in 2020. I went from a company, then I started a concierge association because there was no association for these people. And now the concierge industry is worldwide in almost every city and country around the world. So
Yeah.
that's that story.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And interestingly, my first job out of college, I worked at the front desk of a hotel in San Francisco and got some concierge training because concierge wasn't on all the time, and because I guess I'm personable, I got to learn some of the things and like ways to concierge. So very interesting indeed. And yeah, I was laughing when you were talking about building the website page. I heard this interesting story at a conference um, about Google, and we all know that Google literally just it says Google in the search bar, and it's
Sure.
this. Do you know the story behind that?
No, I
Oh,
thought
this
they started in somebody's garage, but I could be
well, they
wrong.
did. They were at Stanford, and so they had this great idea that the search engine, but all of a sudden they had to put it out there. And Sergey Brin really didn't know a lot of HTML, but he's like, I got to have some way for people to interact with our search engine.
Yeah.
So he literally put up Google and put up the search bar, and because that's all he could do. When he put it up there, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, look at that!" Because you might remember that web pages have gone through a lot, but when they first came out, there
A
was
little
just
bit.
like a bazillion, like all of a sudden in, the
Yeah.
world, you just so much information that you're like, oh my gosh, that's too much. So yeah, I always found that story to be interesting, that like the biggest search engine in the world literally started by someone who's like, I don't really know HTML. I can program a search engine, but I don't know HTML. So
Most
anyway,
people didn't, and if you didn't have two dimes to scrape together, you're just kind of thinking, okay, well, how do I do this? And there was no Google, obviously. There was
yeah,
no classes, no books, no nothing.
there's no
So you just,
WYSIWYGs, no what you see is what you get. It was you were
yeah,
not going to write code. Yeah, and I get it. Now, you have written quite a few books,
I
but you
have.
come up with this idea of forgiveness, which I think in this day and age is really important.
Well, everybody, Xander, will tell you to forgive.
Hmm.
And your pastor will tell you, your parents, your teachers. Nobody teaches you how.
That is
And what
true.
if I don't, and what if I don't want to?
Yeah,
Then what do you do? And then they go on and say this really idiotic thing. They say, well, you need to forgive and forget. Okay. There might be some unicorn human being somewhere on the planet that is completely capable of forgetting. I'm not your girl. And I wrote the book on it. You see, my method and the system that I have, and there's worksheets and all that stuff in the book, but it's going to take the emotional charge out of the memory or the person.
yeah,
See, everybody's scared of forgiveness because on a 10 scale, with 10 being unforgivable dumpster fire and 1 being the easiest person in the world to forgive, you're thinking of your number 10. Every 10 out of 10 people listening to this are all thinking of their number 10. And they probably don't want to forgive that person because it was horrific. And that's fair. And so I'm going to tell you something nobody else will. You don't have to forgive them. Why? Because there's other people, places, and things, and I did say places and things that you can forgive before you even get to that dumpster fire.
absolutely. And I'll share a personal story, sort of around related to that, which is 27 years ago, my older sister was murdered.
Oh, I'm
And,
sorry.
yeah, and um, the man who killed her ended up hanging himself 10 days later in the Cook County prison in
Oof.
Chicago, which I guess, in my own opinion, isn't the worst thing, because then my family didn't have to go through what would have been a very public trial. And actually, at the time, my dad was a sitting district court judge in Massachusetts. So I was really aware of what are called the vagaries of the judicial system.
Right.
I believe in it, but I also, know that stuff doesn't always go the way you hope or wish. But getting back to the forgiveness, um, I was struggling so hard with, why did this happen, right? And that this isn't fair. And both of those things are really true, and they're still true today. But I remember exactly where I was. I was living in Boston at the time. I was on the Massachusetts Turnpike in Brighton, Mass. And I remember that moment where I was like, I just have to let go of, why did this happen? Because
Yeah.
I will never know while I'm here in this body, right? So if I just let go of that, I free myself up. I'm not like the dog chasing its tail. I think that sort of relates to that forgiveness of, I forgave that she was gone, the anger that I had lost her, right?
Exactly.
I certainly have never forgot about it. In fact, it's
And
a
you,
basis of some of the work that I do. I wrote 2 books about sibling loss because I lost my sister. I sit on the board of the Compassionate Friends, which is an organization for my audience, that if you've lost a child or a sibling or a grandchild, we're here to support you. It's a great organization. Um, but I think it's important, right? We get stuck, as you said, on your number 10. Yeah, there are other things that we need to forget. There are people close to us who hurt us badly,
Oh yeah. Usually
epically, in fact.
the system that I designed, I want you to do the tens last. So I'm going to have you sit down and write down all the people you think you need to forgive, and then I'm going to have you rate them between 1 and 10. And you could
Hmm.
have 19 number fives for all I care. I don't care.
Hmm.
You could skip a number, it doesn't bother me. But I want you to start with the number ones. The person who tripped you in high school, the person who stole your lunch out of the company refrigerator last week. How about the guy that was in the fast lane on I-95 South and wouldn't get out of it? These are easy people that you can forgive. How about
Hmm.
the person who cut you off in aisle 4 of the grocery store just yesterday? You can forgive these people. And
Hmm.
as you forgive these people, you're going to start to feel better. And
Absolutely.
eventually you can get to the dumpster fire. So what everybody thinks is when you get angry, you think that you get angry and it leaves your mouth and it dissipates into the world. It does not. It hangs in your energy field. Einstein proved that energy is neither created nor destroyed. It just transforms from one thing to another. So it's just going to hang. So if you're listening to this broadcast, I'm about to hold an opaque coffee cup in front of, well, it's actually tea, uh, opaque teacup in front of my face. So this purple cup can represent bitterness, anger, anything you want. But when I first get angry, I can keep it off to the side. Easy. You and I can still have a conversation. I can go
Yeah.
to work. I can go eat. The longer I hold on to it, the more it's going to hurt. So now it takes two hands. So now my body language, both hands are holding up the cup. I can still live my life, but it's starting to go into my conversations in my head. And
Yeah.
if I continue to hold on to it, now I'm holding the cup in front of my face. My life has stopped, man. I mean, I'm talking about it. I'm spinning the story funny, but I'm still talking about it. It's in all my conversations. I'm being negative. I'm probably getting every Tom, Dick, and Harry germ that walks down the pipe. I'm getting sick. I'm getting the flu. So the trick becomes to forgive people so you can start living your life again. Because once the cup is down, now I can pay attention again. I'm not focused to the anger. I can see the next money-making opportunity. I can see my dream significant other. I can find that dream house because I'm not so focused on the anger. Anger simply means I want you out of my head.
Hmm.
Period. That's what it means. I don't want to think about you because the person you're mad at is not thinking about you virtually at all. Not even a
Absolutely.
little bit.
And,
But the
and
pre- but the secret sauce to the whole method is energy. Einstein also proved that everything, including this microphone, everything has energy around it. So when you forgive somebody and they don't stay forgiven, you didn't forgive the energy around the person. So
mhm.
my method, there's a little mantra in the book, and it's I forgive this person, the energy around the person, forgive myself, the energy around me, and the energy around the whole thing. Forgiving the
Mhm.
energy is really the special sauce of the whole method.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's as a licensed professional clinical counselor, a mental health person, I talk to my clients all the time about there's this idea with Gestalt theory of closure theory, right? So
Right.
um, Gestalt had this thing. He drew 10 circles and asked people how many of these circles are, how many whole circles are there? Now, there's really only one in the 10, but there are a lot that are very close to being closed. And it is our human nature to go, I want closure. So we see them
Sure.
as being closed. And when we have an issue like we're mad at someone, that's an open circle. And until we
Right.
close it, as you said, with the cup in front of your face, you're stuck, right?
You're
Because
stuck.
you're just stuck there. And I like to think part of my job when I do counseling is people get stuck. I'm here to help you get unstuck. And when we're mad at someone, we get mad, as you said, someone um, is in the express lane doing 45 miles an hour, and we make up stories about why they're doing it, and we make it personal. Oh, they're doing
Sure.
it to slow me down. I try and remind myself in those moments that I don't know what their story is. I don't know what's gone on in their day.
Right.
And maybe it obviously has nothing to do with me because they don't know me. And how powerful am I that the rest of the universe is thinking about me?
That's right.
You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
So there's that energy thing. Oh, well, all that energy, everyone's energy is focused towards me. No, no, it's not.
No, it's not. And you can
Eh,
forgive that energy. Now, when you're dealing with an unforgivable dumpster fire, the reason I call it a dumpster fire is because if you can't forgive the person, that's fair. I mean, that's fair. It might be unforgivable. I mean, that's completely fair. But there's other things in the dumpster that you can forgive. And the energy around the other things, you can forgive the bed, the table, the chair, the park, the bench. You could forgive the date. You can forgive the building. And you could forgive the energy around these things. So pick out other pieces of the memory. It's like coming up to a brick wall. Take out a few bricks, walk around the dump thing, and keep on going.
yeah.
Let me give you an example. Let's say you're driving down the street and you come to a red light. You're driving to work every day and you turn your head to the right, and there's the school where you went to school and you were bullied. So you, in a split second, the memory comes into your head. So you get a little growly, you get a little grumbly because it was awful. So by the time you get to work, you're in a bad mood and you start chopping people's heads off. Well, it's not their fault. So how do you get rid of that memory? How do you just put that memory to bed so you don't have to think about it anymore? Well, it's the energy. So if you can't forgive the bully, forgive the school building and the energy around the building. Forgive your childhood home and the energy around your childhood home. Forgive the playground, the energy around your playground. I forgave 1974 and the energy around 1974. Why did I forgive 19? It was a horrible year. I was getting horribly bullied. I was in the eighth grade. My parents were both alcoholics, so they were getting a very messy divorce. And because of all these things, I tried to commit suicide. So I actually did pick out all the pieces and forgave them and the energy around it. And then for closure, I forgave the whole year and the energy around it. So the method is I really want you to start with the easy ones, please, 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 and then just work your way up to the hard ones. And if you can't do the hard ones, pick out pieces of the memory and forgive the pieces.
Absolutely. Now, here's a question. How do I know that I've forgiven the energy?
There you go. That's a great question. First of all, just because I forgive you doesn't mean I want a relationship with you. I
Yep.
probably don't. Just because I forgive you doesn't mean I'm giving you a pass. You're still wrong and you're still a dumpster fire. It just means I want to be free.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been sober for 34 years. So when you first go into recovery, you're supposed to make amends and you're supposed to reach out to people. I am an extroverted introvert now that I'm older, but as a kid, I was painfully shy.
Sure.
So there is no reaching out to people. It just left me cold. So in my method, forgiveness is selfish. You do it for you. You don't have to tell anybody you've done it. You can do it in the privacy of your own home. You can forgive dead people because it doesn't matter where they are or where they're not. They're in your head,
Yeah.
alive and well, living in your head. So you can forgive these people. It doesn't matter where they are. Now, how do you know you've forgiven them? You can go on Facebook or social media or go to a relative, go to Thanksgiving with your relatives. And if you can look at that person's name or look at that person and you have zero reaction,
Mm-hmm.
that's when you know you're forgiven. I can look at their name on Facebook and it doesn't cause any emotional reaction in me. I literally don't care. I'm
Right.
not thinking good. I'm not thinking bad. I just don't care. I'm
Right.
looking for neutrality. That's exactly what I'm looking for.
Cool.
And now I can look back at my childhood and I can regurgitate all the crap if you want me to, but now I see the love that's there. I see the pockets of love. I see the people in a different light. So have I changed my childhood? Yeah, I kind of have because now I can look back at love instead of hate and anger.
Absolutely. And I'm a big proponent of uh well, I'll say when I talk to sibling survivors or parents or something,
Right.
um, and and I can tell you that I have no idea what my parents have gone through in losing a child.
Right.
But I can tell you that as a sibling, it's incredibly hard. It's equally as devastating.
It's horrific.
My sister was 30 years old. I was 28. I choose every day to celebrate the rainbow that was her life and not just focus on the dot at the end. So
Right.
much the same way that you look back at your childhood, we all have a choice, and choice is so powerful here because when we employ choice, we define whatever is going on. It doesn't define us. So
That's right.
1974 does not define you.
Not even a little bit. But if you asked me what the flashpoint of my life was, what was the time that was an epic beginning for me? Because I've
Sure.
been sitting here thinking about it for before the podcast.
Yeah.
My mother fell down a flight of stairs, broke her hip, and ended up in Lenox Hill Hospital. And even my loving mother couldn't get a gin and tonic in Lenox Hill Hospital, so she dried out, and we sent her to rehab.
Yeah.
And then I spent 3 beautiful years with her. We became close as sisters. We forgave each other. We were really tight. And then she died of breast
Oh,
cancer.
I'm so,
And that was the flashpoint. That was my beginning because I realized that if I didn't change my life, I was going to die like she did. So I changed on
yeah.
a dime. And yeah, I quit drinking, but that was the flashpoint. And would you and I be talking if she hadn't died? Probably not,
Right.
because it was like ripping a band-aid off almost. I mean, it was jarring to lose, and you understand the loss. I mean, it's jarring to lose somebody that close. And I went into mourning for a year. But
Hmm.
that was the beginning. That was the epic beginning because I always knew that there was something more for me out there. And it was just a matter of finding it. My mantra, besides leaving people better than I find them, is don't die until you're dead, people.
Oh,
It's never too late. You're never too old. I am a stage 3 breast cancer survivor. Don't die until you're dead. When you have dinner with the Grim Reaper and you don't go home with the guy, it changes you somehow.
it does. And look,
Don't die until you're dead, people.
absolutely. And I absolutely believe that you're not too old to do anything. I went to
No,
graduate school at 45. Why? Because I needed to do it to be able to do the work that I wanted to do.
that's right. Did you wake up this morning? Are you breathing? Okay, there's still time. Go do it.
Absolutely. That goes to what I call my 97-3 rule, which is 97% of your day is really good and up to 3% isn't so good. Now, granted, there are the
That's
days
fair.
where it may be higher, but those really aren't that. And
Yeah,
yet
it's fair.
somehow our human condition is to focus on the 3% that didn't go right today and completely ignore the 97. And I, I'm like, why?
Because
You're
we're
right. I
human.
woke up this morning. It's great. I get to do this podcast with you. That is
Yeah.
awesome. You
It's
know?
we're only human, and human beings irritate other human beings. So people ask me all the time, when am I going to be done with forgiveness? Never.
Yeah.
You're going to be doing this a while. And I've a little PSA for people. If you don't buy the book or the audio book, let me give you a little PSA. Write down your list. Say the mantra as a very simple. You don't have to hold crystals or jump up and down or sing anything. I'm a very simple soul. But I want you to do it before bed, and I want you to only do 10 at a time. Here's why.
Hmm.
The energy is really powerful. There was a study done, and I'm going to say it really fast and really quick. There was a Japanese water study, and you can Google it right online. It was done by a guy named Masumoto, and this tells you why anger is toxic. He took several containers of water. One container he spoke absolutely loving words to, beautiful
Hmm.
words. The other one he said horrible, horrific words. Put
Hmm.
it under a microscope. The words that he said nasty things had black and brown nasty formations. The word he
Hmm.
spoke love to, beautiful formations. Why am I telling you this? Your body's almost 98% water. So if you have negative self talk and you're angry and bitter, what do you think the water cells are doing to your body?
Yeah.
That's why anger is toxic. And that's why the forgiveness is so critical. So I got my list together. I must have had 50 people, Xander. I mean, I sat there, I was like a woman possessed. I'm a little bit of an overachiever. And I thought, and I did it before bed because your body heals itself, when it sleeps. And I thought, this is going to be great. I'm going to be like a phoenix rising from the ashes. I'm going to be like a butterfly coming out. I'm going to forgive all these people. Tomorrow morning, it's going to be great. I'm going to feel fantastic. Didn't end up that way.
Really?
I spent
Shocking.
I spent the next 3 days in bed with what everybody thought was the stomach flu.
Yeah.
It was not the stomach flu. Remember that water study? Remember the cells I'm talking about? Your body needed time to heal itself. And I did too many at once. So my body needed to clear itself in the best way that it knew how. So that's why I really want you guys to do as I say, not as I did. And please limit yourself to like 10 people a night. And this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. This is going to take, this is what a lot of people call this shadow work. I don't know what they call it in the psychiatric world, but a lot of people call this shadow work. And it's going to take a minute. But please leave those 8s, 9s, and 10s. Do the easy ones first.
Absolutely. And I'm going to tack on to that because I talk about in my book. Don't be the meanest person in your life. Because we are so very mean. We say the worst possible things. I did my internship.
Give yourself. You might be your own number 10, 100%.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Forgive yourself. Understand that woulda, coulda, shoulda will again, dog chasing its tail.
Hindsight is 2020.
Okay. We're yeah. There are many things I could have done, I should have done, I would have done, but I didn't. And I can't change it.
Nope.
And so it's not worth my energy, like just stuck there with that open circle of, oh, I should have done this. Well, I didn't. And maybe I didn't because I didn't know. I wasn't capable. I wasn't ready to do that. It doesn't matter. But most importantly, forgive yourself because again, I work in my internship. I work with middle school and high schoolers, and I had to deal with a lot of super negative, self-talk and stuff with my clients. And I asked them, I said, think of 5 things that you've thought about yourself today. Now, if your best friend said one of those things to you, how would you feel? Oh my gosh, I'd be so devastated. That would be horrible. And I'm like, exactly. So why are you saying it to you? Why are you believing?
That's right.
That we have 2 people kind of that are in our life, two people, right?
Yeah.
The superhero and the supervillain. Which one do you want to feed? I go feed the superhero. Go be great.
The hero. Every morning we wake up and we're a brand new person. And the way I forgave my own self, just my own personal way I did it, is I looked at myself as 20-year-old Catherine. And I could forgive 20-year-old Catherine as a separate person because I'm not that person anymore. I'm 63. So I looked at 20-year-old Catherine. She did the best that she could with the tools that she had. But there was so much she hadn't learned yet. And she did her best. And she became the person she had to become to survive. I could forgive that. And then I forgave 30-year-old and 40-year-old. So, who you were yesterday is not who you are today. And I mean, yesterday, you're not that person anymore. So you can forgive that person. They did the best they could.
Absolutely. And
kind of how.
And one thing that I love to remind people, it's not my quote, it's Audrey Hepburn. Nothing is impossible. The word itself says, I am possible.
I'm possible. That's right. That's right. Don't die until you're dead.
Absolutely.
Actually, that's not I wish I could tell you that's my quote and I made it up. Everybody attributes it to me. It was not me. It was said, I heard Valerie Harper say it in an interview on the Today Show, and she had stage 4 cancer and everybody had given her 3 months to live. She lived like 5, 6, 7 years with stage 4. She lived a long time with that disease. And she said it to everybody, don't die until you're dead.
Absolutely. And
I mean,
look,
she did eventually pass, but that's where I
oh,
originally.
absolutely. And I think we're only as old as we believe that we are.
That's right.
And I
Yeah.
look at my mom, who's 84 years old.
God bless her.
Absolutely. And the mind and the will are strong. The body may not be following along as much, but she's not letting that slow her down.
No.
She did a month-long trip like to Africa, went on safari last year. She's going to the Amazon, and she's like, I'm not dead.
No, don't die.
I'm like, absolutely, Mom, rock on.
I
Go.
read an article about a 103-year-old woman who recently got her master's degree.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, exactly.
Do it.
Absolutely. Live your epic life. No matter how long you waited to live that epic dream, it is never, ever too late.
No. And forgiving your past is going to allow you to move forward and become the person you came to the planet to be all along. If you stay focused on the anger, you're not going to be able to be that person you came down here to be. If you can, but as you forgive, your friend circle might change. The people who you're around. Jim Rohn said you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So who you to spend time with. So as you become more positive, the negative people might not want you to become positive. So your circle might change. Allow it to change. This is a good thing.
Absolutely. Katharine, this has been a fascinating conversation. How could people find you, find your book?
They can go to my website at katharinegiovanni.com. And Katharine, thanks to my mother, is spelled a little bit strangely. Thanks, Mom. It's Katharine Giovanni.com. You can also go to Amazon. I have the audiobook, the ebook, and the paperback available for you on Amazon.
Awesome. Well, Katharine, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. This has been really an epic conversation, and I've so enjoyed it. I know my audience, when you're listening, they've enjoyed it too. I want to remind everyone that when you're ready to begin your epic journey, go to epicbegins.com. And as always, epic choices lead to the epic life that you want.
Get your gift copy of the award-winning book, Epic Begins with One Step Forward, at epicbegins.com. That's a wrap on this episode of Epic Begins with One Step Forward with your host, Zander Sprague, best-selling author, internationally acclaimed public speaker, and licensed professional clinical counselor. To make your next conference or event epic, send an email to Zander at zander@epicbegins.com. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Remember, epic choices, epic life.